Boom. So we're back on the Make It Mastermind podcast. We've got another friend of the shows today. We've got Neil Smedley.
How you doing, guys?
Most people know him as the owner of King Kobe.
Yeah. And general podcast king of views and listens
of the Make It Mastermind
podcast.
You're smashing our views so far.
Don't know why.
So, yeah. So we've got Neil in. We wanted to do a bit of a 4-part series talking about 4 different subjects. This is something that we're going to be dropping in November, so it's going to be November time now anyway.
So when you listen right now, it's good November right now.
But yeah, today's topic is zero tolerance.
Yeah, zero tolerance and truth. These two things cross over a lot, which we'll discover.
I want to jump in and say, what is zero tolerance? Because it sounds pretty brutal. When I heard zero tolerance, I was like, all right, let's talk about that. Let's get into it. But by definition, it sounds pretty harsh. And it's always, zero tolerance is always around stuff like crime or you know, stuff like that. Something that's really serious. It's like, no, stamp it out, get rid of it, that stuff. So.
What it is brutal. It's meant to be brutal. So when I'm talking about zero tolerance, I'm talking about a zero tolerance on a personal level. Okay, so the tolerance level you have for the things that are occurring in your own life. So this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, but certainly for kind of the last 2 or 3 years, is looking at my own life and the things that have gone right and the things that have gone wrong. Okay, like most people's lives, I've had more things go wrong than go right. And wondering how much of what I've allowed in my life up to that point has manifested itself in the way that it has. So how much have I tolerated that I could not have tolerated that have led me to that failure in my life? And the answer is a lot. We tolerate a lot. So when I'm talking about zero tolerance, what I'm talking about is looking at the things in your life that you want to achieve, whatever it may be, from the sublime to the minor things, and putting yourself in a position where you can make yourself and your ambitions really, really boundaried. Okay, and we don't do that. When you're not boundaried, all that happens is then somebody will come along, a person or a circumstance, a relationship, a job, whatever, and because we're not boundaried, we haven't given ourselves a cut-off point. So that person or that situation will encroach just a little bit, just a little tiny bit will encroach. And it will be enough of encroachment for you to think, I probably shouldn't allow this, but it won't be big enough of an encroachment for you to confront it. And then it will stop, and then it will encroach a little bit more, and then it will encroach a little bit more. And before you know it, you look over your shoulder, and you have tolerated so much that the dream that you had as past, the opportunity that you wanted to pass, or the relationship you're working on, has now become tires, because you allowed yourself to tolerate things that you shouldn't have tolerated. And what I'm really fascinated by, this is something that Carl Jung spoke about a lot, and it's something I've tried to spend the last 2 years really trying to figure this concept out, which is the idea of tolerance as a fake morality. Okay, so the idea that we tolerate things, and we tolerate things really because we're too weak to confront it, we're too scared to confront it, so we tolerate it, and we hide that weakness under a guise of fake morality. Okay, so it's like, give me an example. So I don't confront you because I'm such a nice person that I don't want to do that. I don't want to have that negativity in my life. It sounds reasonable, right? It sounds perfectly reasonable. I'm going, no, that's good, let's do that. But actually what you've really done is you've not confronted something you should have confronted because you were fearful to confront it. Okay, which is understandable. Confrontation isn't pleasant. But it needed to be done, it wasn't done, and now that situation's encroached on your life more than it should have done, and you're lesser now because of that, no doubt. You're a lesser person because of that. You've brought into question your own integrity. You've brought into question your own level of self-respect. Because we all know what that's like, especially as men. If we don't challenge the things that we know we should challenge in the moment, we know that. That plays on our minds a lot. We're like, I should have done something different. You do that 4 or 5 times, okay? Or let's do it at a time. You do that for 4 or 5 months, 4 or 5 years, you lose all self-respect for yourself. And you just do. And you see that. You see that, especially men in their 40s. You see that. It's a huge regret for people. So we tolerate too much. We tolerate far too much. We tolerate things that we don't need to tolerate. So a zero tolerance approach is looking at the things in your life that you absolutely will not stand for, okay, whatever it may be, and building a structure around yourself that is so boundaried that you won't allow for that, and then sticking to it. And it's brutal.
Where do you think the people's tolerance for things like that come from? Is it, like you mentioned, fear then? What does it boil down to? Fear of certain things, like fear of being accepted, fear of this person still liking me even though I want to say something to them, or
all those things. All those things. I think one of the biggest fears that plays on all of us is the fear of social exposure, say. Okay, so we have that social pressure. So we're all, I don't know if it's an inbuilt thing biologically, but it seems to be nowadays, is that we are so scared of offending or saying the wrong thing, we're so scared of being disliked or being misinterpreted, that rather than run the risk of being misinterpreted or misliked, we prefer to stay in that safe place, yeah, where there's no issue, but we haven't got our point across. We haven't achieved our objective, but it's safer to not achieve your objective than it is to attempt to attain it and run the risk of offending someone or being upset. Which is understandable. You know, confrontation is not a nice thing. Nobody likes it, but confrontation is necessary in life. And confrontation will be necessary, well, daily. I have confrontations every day, you know, and they're not always these huge, big, you know, arguments man to man. But, you know, whether it's dealing with suppliers or whatever it is, there's many confrontations in my life that need to be dealt with. If I don't deal with those confrontations there and then, they become major, major things. But I think fear is the biggest reason why we don't do that. And I think it's fear of failure, it's fear of being judged, it's fear of offending somebody, it's a fear of people looking at you and saying, oh, you're too mean, you're a dick. You know, we want to be liked. That's inbuilt into all, me too, we all want to be liked. And I mean, if you look back on your own lives, and I do on mine, so my teenage years and my 20s, with the story of attempting to be liked, that's what it was, that's what characterised it. You know, wear the right clothes, say the right things, don't say anything too controversial, don't be too out there, but don't be too quiet, you know, don't be too big, don't be too clever, don't be too stupid. You just find this middle place where I can hide, where I'm noticed enough that you'll entertain me, you'll enjoy my company, but I'm not noticed so much that you can have an opinion about me that it's anything other than, yes, Smedley's a nice guy. That's it. Yeah. And the older I get now, the more I realise just what an incredibly dull and isolating place that is, but it's a place, that middle ground of nothingness. But so many of us aim for that middle ground of nothingness. You know, and I see it now. I'm 39, just turned. So a lot of my friends are turning sort of 40, 41, 42, and I see a lot of them now that are looking back and realising they've spent 20 years just dancing to a tune that isn't of their own making. It's not of their own creation. They've played that social game. And when you do that, you wake up before and you don't know who you are. And when you reverse engineer how you got there, it's because you tolerated too much. And it's in the tiny things that you tolerated, you know. I mean, we all talk about it as, you've probably got friends that's kind of the pussy whipped by the women, yeah? Or vice versa, okay? It's not the nicest term in the world, but it is what it is. No. So, and I've got friends like that, and you look at it and think, like, how did that start? How do you get yourself into the situation where you are so terrified of your partner, I don't mean in the physical sense, but in the emotional sense, where you pussyfoot around and you then ask to be at a certain place, you've got to be back at a certain. Because when you met that person, those dynamics were there. Yeah, you didn't know each other. How did you get to that place where you're like, oh, I'm in this terrible situation now? How did you get there? You got there because you allowed too much. You allowed too much and you spoke too little. You didn't assert yourself enough. You were too busy trying to impress that person or trying just to be liked. Which is good. We all do that. We've got to do that. But you've got to draw a line in the sand that says, look, these are my markers, okay? These are my demarcation points. If we operate in here, things will be amazing. The things will be great. Once you operate outside of these lines, there's going to be consequences to that. And that's the basis of every relationship you have. If the relationships you have aren't based on that, then you're going to end up in a position where you're compromising the things that you want to achieve.
Yeah. People that are listening are going to think, it's fucking oxymoron. Like, I do things to please people to be liked, but in that sense, you're not genuinely liked. You're not liked for you. You're liked for the person that you need to be.
Yeah, you're liked for what you represent. And you're liked in many ways for what you're not. And if you look at the people that we admire the most in society, and they're people that were unique in some way, okay, big characters, whether it's Ali but what we forget, so like look at Ali. Ali was equally hated in his day. We forget that now, but in his day, 50% of America hated that guy because of what he stood for, okay? Ali didn't care. Ali picked his line. He said, these are the boundaries in which I operate. He understood that half the people would love him, half the people would hate him, and that if he was in that place, he was doing something right. Malcolm X was in prison for armed robbery. Martin Luther King was an adulterer, okay? People knew that. Gandhi was a heroin addict and used prostitutes, okay? These were incredibly complicated men that were not loved like they are now in their own time. They were very controversial figures. And they were controversial figures because they decided to walk a path, okay, that meant I'm not going to be loved by everybody. I'm going to be hated by a lot of people, but this is the path to their personal sense of righteousness, if you like, and it's obviously served a high purpose. So when you, and look, we're not all going to be Gandhis and Malcolm X's, but we've got to pick a path that leads us to our sacred place, the place where we can look ourselves in the mirror and be proud of who we are. That's what we're trying to do. And you cannot achieve that unless you're prepared to walk a line that cuts right through the middle of the crowd. You just can't. Now, what you can do is find a real safe place. And you'll find a really safe place where nobody will question you too much. And all anybody will be able to say about you is, yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah, he's lovely. He's a nice guy. Which just means you're a nothingness. You're a nothingness, you know. I would rather be hated for who I am than loved for what I'm not, you know. Which is just an old cliche quote, but it's very, very true. And I think if you work on, I think I've mentioned this before to you guys, but I kind of work on thirds. I'm not sure where I got this analogy from, but it fits. And that's like a third of the people will actively love you and support you, and they're on your team, okay? For good or bad, they're on your team. A third of the people will just be completely indifferent to you. They don't care either way. And a third of the people will actively just dislike you and hate you and not support you. And if you're in that place, you're doing something right. You're saying something that's worthy of being heard. You're attempting to achieve a goal and ambition that's worthy of being achieved. You're doing something different. Because that's the only time you ever get hated, is when you're doing something different. So, and you can only do that if you're prepared to tolerate, okay, so talking about zero tolerance, is you're prepared to tolerate the fact that walking that path is going to mean that you're going to put yourself in a place where half of the people are going to shun you. That's just the way it is. That's the path. Half of the people are going to shun you.
So do you know? So how important is it then to, I guess, for everyone as individuals to find their own, like you say, their own calling, whatever it be, true to themselves. And if we're not, if people are waking up at the age of 40, 50 and realising now what have I done with the last 20 years of my life, like how important is it to find the root of that, and what are, I guess, some of the negatives, or what could happen if like that's ignored, you know, you don't give a shit about it. And
well, if you ignore those things, like we all have those urges, right? And some people that don't, obviously, but generally speaking, we all have that urge for greatness. Yeah, I mean the greatness in terms of what we're capable of achieving, okay? So we all have that urge, we all feel it, and oftentimes we ignore it. I ignored it for 10, 15 years of my life. Yeah, I knew it was there, just thinking, well, I can come back to it, I can come back to it, I can come back to it. I mean, how many years do you guys think of starting this podcast before you actually said, fuck you, we're going to start this podcast? It was probably an idea that was floating around for a few years. You put it on the back burner, and the consequence of doing that is eternal regret. And that's the saddest thing on the face of the earth. You know, one of the biggest lies of our culture, and we're a culture that's just entwined in lies, is that it's never too late. Yeah, you see that meme shared constantly. It's never too late. It's never too late. Well, it is. It is too late. It gets too late. Yeah, you want to be a world class bodybuilder and you start training at 40, it ain't gonna happen for you. You want to be heavyweight champion of the world and you walk into a gym at 28, it ain't gonna happen to you. You know, you want to be a NASA astronaut and you go to university at 70, it's not gonna happen for you. You want to be a father, you want to be a mother, you know, and you're attempting kids at 40, 45, it's a very good chance it's not gonna happen for you. Okay, we have very, very narrow windows of opportunity in our lives. Okay, nobody ever speaks about this because it's not nice to speak about it. Yeah, there are some opportunities and some windows of time that are open for a moment, just a brief moment, and when they're gone, they're gone. That's it. You know, and all your whining and your tears and your regret and your remorse will never ever bring that moment back into being. Never. It's gone. So we need to tell people, no, it is too late. There will come a point when it's too late. There will come a point when the ambition and the dreams that you have now will have expired. Even if your mindset changes, yeah? If your mindset matures when you're 50, you can't achieve at 50 what you could have achieved at 20. There's going to be certain doors that are closed to you. So it is too late. So the consequence of not figuring these things out early is that you live a life that's wrapped in regret. And I know grown men that live that way, and it's ugly. It's a terrible, terrible thing to see. You know, it's one of the biggest tragedies there is. You see grown men walking around with regret. It's the way of the world. You know, their face is changing. It makes people old. It's a terrible thing to live with. I live with it. You know, I have regrets, and having regrets for things that you know you can do nothing about is tragic.
All right. So on the podcast, it always comes up like you find people that are already shaped by the message that they put across, right? So someone that's listening now, they're doing all that stuff. They're tolerating shit they shouldn't tolerate, all that sort of stuff. Where do you start? Like, what's your advice? How do you just get brave, just try it once. Like, say to your girlfriend, I'm coming in when I want to fucking come in from this night out, and then just see what happens. Like, you can't, do you know what I mean? Like, don't roll the fucking dice like that. But, no. Where do you start?
So there's degrees, okay? There's degrees to bravery. And it is bravery, that's the right word, that's the right way to conceptualize it. It comes down to a personal sense of bravery. There's degrees to it, okay? You ain't ever going to go from being someone that is generally easily intimidated and avoids confrontation and quite timid and shy and scared of things, to being someone that just goes, "You're just gonna take the world on, motherfucker." That's not gonna happen overnight. So you look at your life in terms of macro and micro, okay, and look at the micro things that you can fix. You know, I used to have this conversation all the time with a friend of mine, and they would say the same question: where do I start? What do I do? I said, okay, the first thing you need to do is be aware. Okay, really, really aware. Your life will present you with 5 or 6 opportunities every single day that you're currently not aware of, that will give you the chance to grow and interact with people in a different way. Okay, even if it's just the checkout girl in the supermarket or a restaurant. They've added a Coke onto your bill you didn't have. And normally you just let that slide because it's, and excuse me, the Coke's on my bill, it shouldn't have been there. It's a mini confrontation, okay? And that's what it is. It's a mini confrontation. Feels uncomfortable. I was like that. I'd be the guy when I was 21. Oh, it's fine. Leave it. Just deal with that. And you go, oh, I dealt with that. Okay, it's a small thing, but I dealt with that. That was a mini confrontation. Wasn't that bad? And guess what? Nobody likes confrontation. So the girl that you're speaking to doesn't want a confrontation. So straight away go, not a problem. I'll take it off. And then you go, oh, okay, this isn't as daunting as I thought it was. Okay, what else can I control? Okay, well, maybe I can have that conversation with my girlfriend. Maybe I can have that conversation with my boss. Or maybe I can lay some things out. So I think one of the key things to changing anything in your life is being aware of the opportunities that life will present you that you're currently not seeing. And you will quickly become aware that 5-6 times a day, there are very tiny opportunities that give you the opportunity to grow. And when you become attuned to them, the rate of your personal growth just accelerates tenfold. But you've got to put things down on a micro level.
Yeah. How important, it just came to me, because everyone's on about like journaling and write what you're grateful for and all that stuff. It comes up all the time. But how important would it be to actually document times in your life where you have that uncomfortable feeling? Like, be real with yourself.
Really
write
important.
it down and say, yeah, I kind of bitched out. Like, they put a 20% service charge on and the service was shit.
Yeah.
I should have just asked them to take it off and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I feel a bit shit about it. Write that down. Make a note of it, and
absolutely.
And then you probably, now even for me thinking about it, like, it'll probably scare the shit out of you. Like, fuck, I put up with all these tiny little bits of shit for what?
No, that's what it is. And then you realise when you have the bravery to reverse engineer your life, and it starts becoming apparent to you where you went wrong. You know, and it's the butterfly effect of life is insane to me. These small details, that's where your life's at. 80% of who you are is manifest in these tiny details. The details that you think are insignificant. Okay? So I remember having a conversation, I had some conversation many times with Jodie, the mother of my children. And Jodie is lovely and amazing, but she would do this thing constantly where she would just fake laugh. She would just straight up fake laugh with people, even when they hadn't said something that was funny. And I would call out, it would drive me insane. I'd call out all the time. I said, where's this coming from? What's this? You know, kind of throwing yourself backwards, hand on your chest. And she had no idea she was doing it. None. Okay. And I pointed out to her enough, and she hated me for it, I'm sure. But I kept pointing out until the point where she was like, shit, you're right. I'm recognizing that I'm doing this now. Okay, now I'm recognizing that I'm doing this. I need to figure out where this comes from. And it's like, I guess I'm just not comfortable in certain social situations. So I do this thing that hides me from it, you know, and I do the fake laughing, and what I'm doing there is participating in this unwritten, unspoken social contact that keeps things flowing between strangers, you know, and that's essentially what it is. But when you do that, you sell short a little bit of your own integrity. You've sacrificed a little bit of your own individuality for the good of a stranger. Okay, now that seems extreme on the circumstance. That seems extreme in the moment. But when you break it down, go, hang on a minute. So I'll do a fake laugh for this stranger. Yeah. Okay, and I'll engage in conversation. I'm not really interested with the way, just for the sake of it. Yeah, okay. If you do that for 4 or 5 years, you are literally spending huge chunks of your life sacrificing levels of your individuality for the good of the crowd. Now, if you're doing that on a micro level, you have no idea how much that's manifesting itself into the bigger things. Because the idea that you can manifest yourself as a fully functional, fully self-realized individual on a macro level, when at the micro level you're fake laughing to strangers, it's not going to happen. You know? So I remember when I first pointed this out to Jodie, she didn't realise, or didn't see it as being a big deal. So, well, what does it matter if I do that? You know? And it took a lot of time to go, no, it matters because you're selling a part of you that isn't really you. You know, and if you do that then in a circumstance that has no consequence, what do you do on a bigger scale? What do you do when you're talking to a boss? What do you do when you're talking to your parents? What do you do when there's real consequences to the interaction that you're having? And the reality is it's huge. 80% of who you are manifests itself in those small things. The things that seem insignificant. The things that when somebody points it out to you, you're like, oh, shut up, you're just picking up on small things. It's like, no, bro, I promise you that like unlocking your potential is in understanding these small things and understanding why the fuck you just did that. Why did you just say that? Why did you just do that? Why did you just laugh like that? Why did you do that? It's like, fuck yeah. And I only noticed, look, I did exactly the same thing. I spent 10 years saying yes to everybody, all the time. Yes, 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 yes. You know, despite appearances, I was that guy that would avoid confrontation at all costs. Like, I would beg my mum to take t-shirts back to the shop for me. I was so nervous about doing stuff like that. You know, I would let everything slide. I would take CVs in from people that I had no jobs for. Because I'd just be like, oh, and it's just ridiculous. And I realised, no, these things are manifesting themselves. These things are making me weaker. I'm saying things that are making me weak. Because when that situation has transpired and I'm left with me, I'm going, oh, why have I just done that? Like, I just said something that I know wasn't true. Wasn't true for no reason other than I had this irrational fear of a confrontation with somebody that I've never met in my life. And once I became aware of that, then you got responsibility to fix it. But my life improved tenfold once I really became aware of that. But that requires a huge amount of honesty as well.
Yeah, but it seems like, I guess, self-reflection and being truth to yourself is big. And in comparison to your, like you say, your teenage years, your 20s, to now, would you say now you reflect on your own life a lot more?
Constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, literally constantly. My mind never stops. It never, ever, ever stops. With these sorts of questions, trying to figure out the answers to these things, like, it literally never stops. I'm constantly pushing for more. And because I don't know all the answers. I'm not smart enough to know all the answers. But all I've got to do is analyse my own life and realise that, you know, right now, I'm probably operating about 50% of my potential, if that. So that's 50% of my life that I'm still wasting at 39, you know, and I know this stuff more than most people. I'm still wasting 50% of my life. So, you know, you can't stop. You've got to keep trying to figure this out. So I'm constantly asking myself why I've done something, or why I've said something, or why did I let that slide? But then the counter side to that, you know, and I've discovered this, is so I went from being this super liberal guy, socialist guy, very amenable, would give people anything, do anything for anybody. You know, I still got, you know, those traits still exist in me. And then when you become awake to that and start going, right, how much of this am I doing because I want to? How much am I doing because I'm weak? Right, you're doing a lot of it because you're weak. Okay, how do I change that? And then there's part of you that wants to change so dramatically that you switch to the other side. And then you can feel yourself becoming a bit of a tyrant almost. You know, I'm becoming the guy that's too assertive, the guy that people don't want to speak to. You know, and I found myself on that side of the fence as well. So it's a really difficult thing to find the middle ground with this, especially when you're coming from one extreme to the other, you know. So yeah, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful of the other side of it as well, because that's equally not pretty.
How much does it boil down to how comfortable you are with yourself though? Because I guess when you do this and you start to push back on anything and little things, and you get the pushback of your push, that'll, to people just doing it, would trigger a bit of like doubt of, I don't really like that. And
Or the confrontation.
exactly, yeah. It's like, where's the, I don't know.
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, if you could pull it back for me, because
I
got lost in my own sentence.
No, it's right. So let's just get it straight. First of all, nobody likes confrontation. Okay, you meet someone that likes confrontation, don't go anywhere near that person. Okay, that person's a fool or a psychopath. Confrontation isn't pleasant, but life is confrontation. Okay, and that confrontation isn't necessarily with a man, a woman, another human being. There is confrontation constantly, just in getting stuff done. The biggest confrontation is with yourself. But if you don't embrace confrontation, your life will go nowhere. It's not possible. We are built for confrontation, and we learn and we grow through confrontation. But you have to be willing to confront yourself first. And you talk about how do you get comfortable with it. Well, how do you get comfortable with anything? You get comfortable with anything through repetition. Okay? One of the biggest myths I find is that, well, I'm naturally this way, or I'm naturally that way. I don't think we are naturally anything. Certainly we have propensities towards certain character traits. But I wasn't born the way that I am now. I molded this version of me. I molded this version, you know, through study and meditation and reflection and truth and a lot of pain and a lot of sacrifice, a lot of suffering. And I molded this version of me because I decided that the version of me that I am now is the best version that I can muster thus far to navigate, you know, the tragedy of life. So how do you become more comfortable with conversation? You engage in it. How do you become more comfortable in the gym? You engage in it. How do you become more comfortable in public speaking? You engage in it. You have to engage in the thing that scares you the most. You have to, no matter what it is. You know, that's exposure therapy. You know, that's what a good psychotherapist will do for you. You expose yourself to your fears, but that exposure has to be voluntary. Okay, so when you expose yourself voluntarily to your fears, you get stronger. You get stronger. This has been proven time and time and time and time again. You get stronger, but you have to confront the thing that you're afraid of. And we don't do that because there's a million places to hide, and there's a million justifications for avoiding the things that scare you, and because we tolerate too much. We tolerate far too much, and we listen to the wrong people. And people have good intentions for sure, I don't doubt that, but it's, you know, when we're told constantly, you know, well, it's understandable you didn't do what you said you were going to do, and well, you've just had a kid, or you've worked long hours, or one glass of wine is fine, or we can do it next year, it's fine, write it all off, you're good enough the way you are. And we have these messages that, even though part of our brain doesn't quite believe them, we know it's a lie, it's a comforting lie. So the left side of our brain goes, we'll have that, we'll cling on to that, that's good, yeah, I can come again. That's because you tolerate the wrong voices, you tolerate the wrong noises. And that's what zero tolerance comes down to. Is saying, no, this has to be done, it has to be done now. It has to be done in the time frame in which I specified it had to be done. It has to be done in the way that it has to be done. And dealing with things in the moment. Most of the catastrophes in my life personally have come when I've failed to recognise the urgency of the situation. And I think that's true universally, culturally, globally. When you look at the history of mankind, throughout time, mankind's biggest failure has been his inability to recognise the urgency and the seriousness of the moment. And catastrophe strikes. And you boil that down onto a personal level, and you see that all the time. You didn't see it coming. You didn't understand how important that moment was. You didn't understand how important it was to have that conversation then, in that moment. And then these moments close, and you find that your relationship's gone, or your business is gone, or you've not spoken to your parents for 10 years, because you didn't act in that moment. You know, and it's really, really important that we train ourselves to be aware that a lot of the things we're going through, they're here for a moment, when they're not there for an eternity. And if you don't deal with it there and then, you are sacrificing your sovereignty as an individual, and you're playing to the crowd. And nobody wants to play to the crowd. And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? None of us want to play to the crowd. We hate the crowd. We are the crowd. We are the crowd, but we all hate the fucking crowd. None of us want to be the crowd. None of us want to be average. None of us want to be mediocre. None of us want to be boring or dull. None of us want to be described as lovely at our funeral. You know, that's the best you can say about me. That's a life poorly lived. And yet, we play to the crowd so much. And that's one thing that I just don't do that anymore. I don't do it anymore. And in fact, I got some validation for this, because my son plays football, and they were having an awards ceremony, and all the parents are there. It's just like, I'm not a sociable guy. Yeah, it's not my thing. You know, the face there was kind of mean. Like, don't talk to me too much. So there's a guy there on Kobe's football team who I get along with. So all the parents are sat on one table, and I turned up 15 minutes late. And I just went and sat down by myself at the side. Wasn't being rude. That's just what I do. I just sat down there. I'm scrolling through Instagram, and Michael, the father of another one of the boys, comes across and said, "Joe, man, I really respect you." I was like, "Oh, cool. Why?" It's like, "Cause you're not rude at all, are you?" He's like, "You just don't want to engage in stuff you don't want to engage in." I was like, finally someone gets it. And it's like, yeah, that's all it is. That's all it is. It's just saying, no, you guys are great, but this is who I am. This is what I do. This is the box in which I operate. Yeah, I won't do small talk. I won't do social interaction for the sake of social interaction. If you need me, I'll be there. If you want to engage with me, I'll engage with you. But I'm not going to play this social role, because I recognise now, looking backwards on my life, that I wasted so many years, probably the most important years of my life, playing a social role, because I tolerated too much. And now, at almost 40, like, I'm not stupid. I've probably lived more life than I have left. I have no more time to play social roles. I have no more time to sin against my own ideal. I have no more time to fuck around. You know, I've got redemption to seek, and we all do. And I'm so painfully aware, you know, approaching like the autumn time of my life, that the redemption that I want to seek, and the things I want to achieve, and the father I want to be, the man I want to be, it has to be done now. Should have been done 10 years ago. It wasn't. You fucked up, but it's got to be done now. Because when you're 50 and 60, the world doesn't give a fuck about you. It's just the reality. No one cares. And when your children are 15, 20, no one cares about you trying to rectify those relationships now. Yeah, the moment is now. And I'm painfully aware of that. You know, that plays into all the things that I do.
Yeah, that's so true. You know, like, hearing you say it, and, you know, even my own teenage years and growing up, it's just so easy to do. You know, you don't think about it, and you just go along with it. You'll go to places that you don't even really want to be there, but because there's nothing else going on in your mind, there's nothing else, you just end up doing things just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, it's great.
Like peer pressure, all these things stem from this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's existence. I mean, that's what we exist. And you look around you, everyone just exists. And we exist because we've built a culture. I think I've said this before. It's the same thing. We've built a culture where you can spend your entire life hiding and do so fucking successfully. That's it. You can hide in seeking out, carnal pleasures, whatever good that's going to do. So you can hide in one-night stand, in drugs. You can hide in cold air. You can hide in nightlife culture. You can hide doing a job that pays you moderately well. So it's a good place to hide because there's people making less than you. Yeah, you could do more, but there's still people beneath you. So it gives you a place to fucking hide, and that's what we do. I think one of the best ways I heard this put was from David Goggins, and it blew my mind when I heard it, even though it's so simple. He said, most people in life don't want to win. They just don't want to lose. And I kept playing that back in my going, fuck, that's like one of the deepest things I've ever heard. And what he means by that, I'm assuming what I think he means by that, is that to want to win in life is a specific mentality, right? It's a rare mentality. To want to win, to dominate your life. Not the people around you, but to dominate your fucking existence. Like it matters. Like your life matters. To want to win. Say, no, whatever pursuit I do, I want to win. I want to win the gym. I want to win my job. I want to win my relationship. I want to win. Most people don't have that mentality. Most people just don't want to lose, which means that gives them a place to hide. So all they do is say, well, yes, I could be more. I could be better in the gym. I could earn more money. I could push my business more. I could be a better husband, father, lover, brother, mother, whatever. But there's people worse than me. There's people further down the line than me. Okay, so that makes you feel good. That gives you a sense of moral superiority. So you're not losing, are you? You're not losing the race. You're not losing the race of life because there's people beneath you. But you're not fucking winning. There's a huge difference. Most people don't want to win. They just don't want to lose. And that was really powerful for me. Really, really powerful. And I realised that for most of my 20s, I was content with not losing. I boxed for most of my life, and I was a good boxer. And I should have been a pro. I had it in me. My brother had it in me to box for England and to be a professional. And we fucked it up. And we fucked it up because we were lazy, and we fucked it up because we had this arrogance that said, I know that my talent level's there, and that'll be enough. But there's people beneath me. I can beat 80% of the field. Okay, so it's fine that I'm not in the top 20% because I can still be that 80%. And it's the wrong mentality. And everyone's got that mentality. People don't want to lose, but they don't want to win. You have to train yourself to want to fucking win. And that again ties back into you will only win based on how much you're prepared to tolerate. Ultimately, your entire existence will be a reflection of what you've tolerated in your life. You tolerate the wrong things, your life's done. You can join the queue of mediocrity. That's exactly where you'll be. Success doesn't tolerate certain things. There's markers, success leaves markers. There's markers to it. The more you tolerate, then the less chance you have of winning. But you'll do a great job of spitting right into that dugout.
But so the words he's saying are so true. It's like kind of flashing back to me my days of playing semi-professional basketball and sort of trying to make it pro. And I remember myself the way I used to think there would be days where I'd think, oh, I'm all right, I'm better than a lot of these guys, but it's not about them, it's about the competition. How much better are you than everybody else? And the guys that did make it, the guys that were able to get scholarships, you could see that they were doing the extra work. Yeah, they'd be doing the workout that I'm doing. Them at night, they might be stretching, they might be doing something else.
Yeah.
But being true to yourself and your goal and sort of aligning that with your action is just like fucking so key, man. It's
huge.
And it's
huge.
Underplayed so much, and people don't look at it, and I'm guilty of it. It's
I think one of the biggest reasons for it as well, and this is just a how would you say? It's a byproduct of cultural and global success, if you like, is that what we lack now in this culture, generally speaking, is necessity. So you don't nail certain things on your to-do list. Are you going to be homeless tomorrow? No. Are you still going to eat tonight? Yeah. Is your girlfriend going to leave you? No. Where's the necessity? There's no necessity for success. You look at, we go back to the 80s. So when the heavyweight boxing were dominated by Tyson, and then everybody came off. All these guys came from Queens in New York, right? These were the poorest guys, like in the Western world. They had nothing. They came from a place of absolute necessity. It was success or starve. Do it or starve. Kill or be killed. Yeah, and one of the biggest tragedies that we have to deal with, and I don't think anyone talks about this that I've heard, is that we are born into a place where necessity is gone. There is no necessity. Even the poorest and the weakest among us will have somewhere to live, generally speaking, and will have food on the table. So then the necessity for you to reach your potential isn't there anymore. That's an added extra that if you're strong enough and brave enough, you can accomplish those things. But your life, in terms of what's needed just to survive, those things are there regardless of whether you work hard. They're there regardless of whether you put the extra effort in, regardless of whether you do the grind. Necessity is missing. And you look at a lot of the guys that achieve great success, they're driven by necessity. A lot of inventions driven by necessity. We lack necessity,
Yeah. How important is it for people to not focus on the competition that's out there though? Like, because you were saying like, people want to fit in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So you're competing with this guy and this guy. Oh, I'm better than him. I'm not as good as him. But then really, they actually are trivial. They don't actually matter because you shouldn't really want to fit into that. You should be blinkered really towards your own goals. It shouldn't be about other people at all.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. And look, I mean, comparing yourself to others it's useful when you're a teenager. It places you in the world, So it gives you something to aim for. So you go, I want to be like that guy, And those comparisons are good. They're useful. They're necessity. They drive necessity. So they drive us forward. When we get to being in adulthood, those things just become damaging. So it's good to know. Okay, so let's just say, right, you want to be a pro basketball player, okay, and you'll have maybe 5 or 6 guys that are at the top of the tree that you admire, and they'll have certain traits that you want to replicate for you, okay? So you're not comparing yourself to them, but they set a marker for you. They set a marker for you because that indicates success, and that's where you want to be. But if you're not focused on doing the things that you need to do, then you're not going to be able to compete at that level anyway. So you can't become too lost with looking at where the crowd is. But certainly, you can't be naive about it. We all know where the crowd is, So it's there in the back of our mind. It just should never be the focus of what you're doing. Your focus, and again, it's cheesy, but it's just true. Your focus should be on being a better version of you tomorrow. That's it. Not getting to where that guy's got. Or, I've got 3 shops. That guy's got 4 shops. Those things are just there. That's keeping up with the Joneses, and that's not where you should be.
Yeah, because it's like the law of human nature is to want to be different, but thinking that people will look up to you by being liked within a crowd. Like it actually makes no sense. When you go back to the personalities you mentioned before, like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, it's the people that actually go and be different and disregard other opinions. They're the people that reach that point of where the rest of the people look at them like, fuck, I want to be like that. Maybe not straight away, but eventually. Yeah. But it's what people don't see. It's like an oxymoron. You can't. When you're in it, you think you're doing the right. You think you're doing the right thing to get there socially or whatever. But really, it's step away from that. Do your own thing, and then that guy might walk up to you at your kid's football presentation and say something nice to you because of the person you actually are. Not because you laughed at his joke 10 minutes before in a crowd of people,
which wasn't funny. But you ever do that? I sit at social events often, and I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes I kind of feel like I'm not where I'm at. I kind of feel like I'm there, just kind of observing stuff. And I'll watch these guys, and they're all laughing with each other. And I'm like, what he just said wasn't even remotely funny, And you can watch everybody when you're acute to it. You can watch people playing roles, And to a certain, look, I'm not naive. To a certain extent, there's nothing wrong with that because we all play a social role. We have to. That was what keeps society going. There is this unwritten social contract, and we all do it. That's why we shake hands when we greet. It's all part of it. But if you do it too often, you sacrifice so much of who you are, and you don't realize it until you've already gone. Yeah, you sacrifice so much of who you are, And you've only got to look around any bar, and the guys all look the same, and they're wearing the same, and they're drinking the same drinks, and they're wearing the same brands, and listening to the same music, and they're wearing the same headphones. And yet they'll be so keen to tell you how fucking different they are and how individual they are. And the only real difference now the only real difference that's worth attaining for the individual is individuality of thought. This the only real mark of individuality is the individuality of thought. And that's probably the rarest thing to find anywhere in the world right now, is people, especially under 30, that have the ability to think critically, and especially that have the ability to think critically about their own being, because people just don't do that. They just don't do that. They just don't seek the truth.
Do you know what? With that, then, with seeking the truth and being in, wanting to become an individual, and have your own self-thought. Do you think people nowadays are thinking more individually, or do you think that's something more of the past that people did more, let's say 30, 40 years back?
What, in terms of thinking of themselves as a sovereign entity?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I don't think. I think the individual, the true individual, has always, and this is something Nietzsche spoke about a lot, has always struggled to pull away from the crowd because the crowd draws you in. I don't think we struggle with it any more now than we have at any other point in history. I think we're just probably we're more hyper aware of everything nowadays, aren't we? So I think that's what it is. But I don't think it's a recent struggle. Again, it's just somewhere to hide. And what I find so staggering, and I did this in my 20s. So you would look at, so I'd spent a lot of time looking at guys that were in shape because I wanted to be in shape. But I was that guy that could just never be fucking arsed with a meal prep and going to the gym. But I wanted to be in shape, and I would look at these people that I wanted to be like. Okay, and they would tell me how to be like them. And I would look at the people that I admired intellectually or emotionally, and I would read the books that they wrote. And these books were instruction manuals about how to be like them. And still I wouldn't do it. Still I wouldn't do what he told me to do. Still I wouldn't take the advice of the books that I read. Yeah, but I took some comfort in the fact, well, at least I've read those books. Yeah, most guys haven't even read those books. I've read those books. Yeah, and there's that moral cowardice again. There's me, he's just peacocking. I've read the books, but he didn't do what was in the books. So being an individual is incredibly hard, and that's why we don't do it. It's that simple. It's fucking hard. It's brutal, because you're gonna have to face criticism, and you're gonna have to face, many rocky roads, and you're gonna be. But I know from owning the business. So we've got 41 employees now, and I'm always an arsehole to somebody. Someone in that business always hates me, always. And that bothered me for a long time. It really bothered me because I didn't want anyone to think negative of me. I wanted to be the guy that was the big brother, the mentor. Yeah, I'll help. I'll do anything for you. And I realised that the more you expand that circle, you can't do it. You just can't do it. And I've become comfortable with that now, going, yeah, no, it's fine. That's cool. I can't allow what you think of me to knock me off my path. I can't do that. I can't allow myself to sacrifice, my individuality to suit you. I can't do that anymore. And I did that for too long. So if you don't decide early that you're going to walk your own path, you will absolutely just get eaten up by the crowd. And it's a paradox because people want society to be one thing, right? We struggle when we have to strip back things and realise it's layers. So to some people, you speak to a leftist, for instance, and society and capitalism is this big, evil, awful machine, and it strips people of their identity. And you're going, well, that's true. That's true. To a certain extent, that's true. That's what the school system does. It strips us of our identity. It teaches us a certain way to live and behave in the world. We have sexual norms that have been handed down to us by the Victorians. We have behavioural norms that have come from the same time frame. We still have a religious overhang. So we still have a lot of these behavioural cues that are absolutely instructed to us by our parents and by our structures, and it's done so unconsciously. But we realise, we go, shit, yeah, these things have a massive role on who I am. But society isn't just that. Society is also the thing that means that we can sit here and do this. Society is also the thing that means there's something to fucking strive for in the first place. Yeah? So society is all of those things combined. It's both of those things. But you have to get to a point at some point, and usually to be most successful between 20 and 25 is when you get to that point when you say, okay, I've done the socialised. I'm a socialised individual. I know how to operate in the world. I know how to have a conversation. I know how to have a confrontation. I get that. Okay, do I continue here now, or do I take the skills I've learned from that socialisation, and do I just start to walk a path that's uniquely mine? And that's what you should be doing.
I just don't want to say anymore, really. Because you just fucking hit the nail on the head. Like you can dress it up and frame it differently and make it sound really nice, but that's the fact of it. Is walk your own path. It'll do much more than just give you something to work for. It'll probably bring you a lot of peace, to be honest, just to find that.
Be true to yourself, right?
True to yourself.
Do you know, it's what you mentioned it today. You were saying when you go see your customers for your job outside of here, you were saying that you'd be a lot more direct with your customers, tell them why you're there, what you're doing there, rather than beating around the bush trying to be nice, like you were saying, just to show up to fake a laugh and have that sort of uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And people respond to that. People really respect that. So like now when we interview new guys for the shops, we'll be like straight away, okay, you don't steal from us, okay? You don't lie to me, you turn up on time. That's pretty much the only rule. You do those, everything's good, we're great. You step outside those rules, got a problem. Okay, you cool? Cool. Like the guys, like their eyes light up and go, amazing, someone that spoke straight. This is fantastic. And then everybody knows where they are, and it's really, really simple. And it's amazing. And sorry, this was a part I was trying to make before, I just remembered. We look towards these people that we admire and go, I like that guy. That guy's a straight talker.
Yeah.
but you're not. But you respect it when someone talks straight to you. You recognise that in them, and you go, yeah, that's good. I'm glad. I'd like to know where I am. But when it comes your turn to step up to the pulpit and to speak straight, there's that little bit of fear that comes up, and you start, before you realize it, you start kind of pushing down what's uniquely you, and operate on that, that social contract, So it's about looking at the people you want to be like, or that have traits that you admire, and having the fucking courage to be like them. What's amazing? Like, so you got these books here, yeah? I noticed that's like one of the best books ever written. 12 Rules for Life. What's amazing? So 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson. That's like what, $9.99, $12.99, something like that.
Yeah.
For $12.99, you got a man's lifetime's lifetime's work in that book. He's 60 years old. One of the world's leading thinkers, leading philosophers, leading psychologists. For $12.99, you can own everything he's learned in his career. But no, you wouldn't dream of fucking, not you, but most people wouldn't dream of buying that fucking book. But you'll go to Harvey Nichols and drop £700 on some fucking Balenciaga trainers to impress some girl you never met. But you won't drop $12.99 to get the insight of one of the world's leading minds. And when you reverse engineer this stuff, you go, this is fucked up. This is, how do we get to this point? And that's another interesting thing, is that we've created all these places to hide in this culture. But there is nowhere to hide, because information's never been more accessible. It's never been easier to be who the fuck you want to be. Never. It's never been easy to be in shape. It's never been easy to be smart. It's never been easy to be informed. It's never been easy to make money. It's never been easier to start a business. It's never, ever, ever been easier to do those things. And still we create these myriad of places to hide. It's one of the biggest paradoxes of our time. It really is. But what it does mean is that, unlike generations before us, where life was literally about, right, let's not die today, you're going to get a generation of people, Generation X, Generation Z and the millennials, this is going to happen. They're going to get to 60 and 70 and realise that they just wasted their entire life hiding. They realise wasted their entire life playing a social game. And we need individuals. We need genuine, strong, self-realised, self-actualised individuals that are going to play a straight game, that are going to walk a different path and tell us truths, like Peterson. People of that ilk. Because they're the people that go out into the wild, into the chaos, into the unknown, and they find the things that we haven't had the balls to find, and the truth and all these things, and they bring them back and say, I've been to the places you didn't want to venture. I've been to those places. I turned my back on the crowd. I've been to those scary places, and this is what I discovered. These are the truths I've found. And it makes it better for all of us. And that's heroic. And I want to be a hero. I want to be the hero of my own story, and so do you guys. And the only way you're going to do that is if you turn your back on the crowd and you stop tolerating the things that you tolerate, and realise, really, truly, deeply realise that there is no such thing as things in your life that don't matter. There really isn't. 80% of your life is the small stuff. The conversation with a girlfriend, the things that just appear to be of no significance. Trust me, they're manifesting. They're manifesting on a macro scale. You just need to be more tuned and more aware of it.
Yeah, you're right. Don't tolerate the stuff from yourself. Don't tolerate it from other people. You can start with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Start with yourself.
You should start with yourself.
Let's not fucking go to the gym, or like little things that you negotiate with yourself on. You tolerating in yourself, probably even worse. Like, that's, if you're gonna batter yourself down, someone else is going to be way more.
Oh, what you do? I mean, if you become accustomed to lying to yourself, you're going to lie to everybody you meet. And trust me, I know. I did that. When you get that used to telling yourself lies, and you get that used to hiding the truth, or at least not looking for the truth, which is a big thing. People don't want to face the truthfulness of themselves. That will manifest itself in every area of your life. Like, you can't. This is so vile. You start lying to yourself, it's game over. It's game over for you. In terms of any real significant progress to be made in your life, you will spend the next 50 years existing, and then you'll die, and that will be it. Your life will come to nothing. And when your last born son or daughter dies, nobody on earth will ever know your name.
Yeah.
That's part one, man. That's part one. Have you got anything like any last little caveat for people that to take away from this about zero tolerance? If you could say one thing to your younger self, like one raw fucking truth that's going to just hit home.
I think the biggest thing for all of this, I think, is that you have to, and I think this is the best way that I can conceptualize it, is you have to be prepared to declare civil war on yourself. Like literally, you got to take yourself to war, declare civil war. You've almost in your head got to create two people. There's you and there's this other character. And inside your head, you have to let them do battle, okay? And the person that wins is the person that you become. And you have to do a battle with the ideas. You have to do battles with your opinions. Why do you think the way you do? Do battles with your behavior. But you have to really, truly look at yourself and be prepared to go to war. And that's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to do that because you'll quit. We've said this before, but you'll quickly realize that a lot of you is bullshit. You'll quickly realize that you're not a great father, you're not a great husband, you're not a great boss, you're not a great employee. All of these things, yeah? And it's tragic to realize those things. But unless you're prepared to take yourself literally into a battle, an emotional battle, and put yourself into a dark place, you will just exist until you're dead. That's it. You will just exist until you're dead. But the benefits of doing that is you will discover the truths about yourself that are so overwhelmingly powerful and positive that you can literally be wherever the fuck you want to be. And that's the real message. It's not you're good at where you are or too simple. You are much, 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 much more than you currently are. That's the message to everyone. But you're not there now. And you won't be there, motherfucker, unless you have the ability to take responsibility for your life and accept that there are things in your life right now that you know you are not doing. But the upside to that is that you're more powerful than you think. 10 times more powerful than you think, you know? But you set those boundaries and look for truth, real truth, brutal truth. And the reality is truth is brutal. Truth is always, real truth is brutal. Like there's no pretty way about dressing it up. Real truth is brutal, but it's the most redemptive force on the face of the earth. And, you know, truth is cheesy, but truth sets people free. It redeems people. And trust, you know, we all need redemption.
Yeah, do you know what I was going to say as well with success? I think we all just look at the end line, the finish goal, where we want to be. We don't look at that in between, that hard work, the sacrifice that goes in between, the dedication, hard work, whatever it has been, that journey in between is the hardest thing. And we don't look at that. And
no, we never look at
growth,
that.
There is going to be shit times, there is going to be lows.
And I think as well, when you go into like the self-reflection part, it's how deep are you prepared to go? Like how deep are you prepared to go? So if I said to you, like, how much do you love your kids? I've asked myself this, I'm a father, I ask myself this question all the time. How much do you love your kids? Well, if I love my kids, surely I'd be doing everything I could possibly do to improve myself. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not doing everything I could possibly do to improve myself. Okay, so again, how much do you love your kids? I'm like, fuck. There's only one logical conclusion. Okay, how much do you love your kids? I adore my kids, I would die for my kids. Okay, you smoke 40 cigarettes a day. You are knowingly, consciously, willingly taking years off your life. Years away from your children. Again, how much do you love your kids? Fuck. You know, I love my kids. I adore my kids. Okay, you're 10 stone overweight. Really? You love your kids? Really? How much do you love your kids? You love your kids enough to be comfortable? Like you love your kids in a way that we all love our kids, right? It's biological, we all love our children. Do you love them enough to live for them? Do you love them enough to challenge yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you love them enough to change who you are for them? And these are questions I ask myself. I go, fuck, no, I haven't done that. How can I claim to love my children? And that's agony. It's agony to realize those things. But I believe that's how deep you've got to go. You know, don't you fucking claim to love your partner, your mother, your father, when you actively do things that you know full well denigrate, you know, their ability to be the best versions of them, because that's not love. But nobody wants to admit that. So how dare you say I don't love my children? You know, we have that defensive reaction. How dare you say I don't love my girlfriend? Well, I'm just pointing out the evidence. And that's how deep I want to go with truth. That's how deep I want to go with my boundaries. I want to go as deep as possible, you know, and that means exposing myself to the world and saying, I haven't been that great, but I want to get better. Big message there.
Big message.
So, well, we'll go back to wrap up part 1 of the part 4 series.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Look out for next week's episode.
See you next week.